TsʻAo avenges his father's murder. In the last chapter, the two arch-rebels proposed to murder the Emperor Hsin, but their followers T'Eng and Fan opposed this. No, the people will not approve of his death now. Restore him to power and get the Leaguers inside the gates. Remove his supporters and then we can compass his death, and we shall be able to do what we wish. So they ceased the attack. The emperor again spoke from the tower, saying, "Why do you still remain? You have slain Wang Yun, now withdraw these soldiers." Then Lai and Quo replied, "Your servants desire rank us a reward for their good service to your dynasty." "And what rank, sirs?" All four wrote their wishes and handed them up to the emperor, who had no choice but to accede to the request, and they were created generals, Changchun, and received ranks of nobility, and thereupon they went away and camped at Sunung. The inferior leaders also were gratified with ranks, and once more the capital was free of troops. Tung Cho's followers, having so far succeeded, did not forget their late leader. They sought his corpse for burial, but only a few fragments were discoverable. Then they graved an image of fragrant wood in his likeness, laid that out in proper form, and instituted a noble sacrifices and prayers. The remains were dressed in the robes of a prince, laid in a princely coffin for burial. They selected Meiwu for his tomb, and having found an auspicious day, conveyed the coffin thither. But a terrific thunderstorm came on at the time of inhumation, and the ground was flooded. The coffin was riven asunder and the poor remains thrown out. A second time they buried the coffin, but a similar thing happened in the night. And yet a third time in another place, but the earth rejected the remains. Meanwhile, the thunder fire had entirely consumed them. So it may be said justly that heaven was exceeding angry with Tung Cho. So now Lai Tsui and Quo Su wielded the real power of the scepter, and they were hard upon the people. They also removed the attendants from the palace, and replaced them by their own creatures, who maintained a most perfect watch over every movement of the emperor, so that he was greatly hampered and embarrassed. All appointments were made by the late rebels. For the sake of popularity, they especially summoned Chu Qin to court, made him a high chamberlain, and associated him with the government. One day came a report that Ma TʻEng, the prefect of Hsilyang, and Han Sui, with 10 legions, were rapidly approaching the capital with the intention of attacking the rebels. Now these men from the west had laid careful plans. They had sent trusty friends to the capital to find out who would support them. They had conspired with 3 officials to be their inside allies and plot against the rebels. These 3 obtained from the throne 2 secret edicts conferring the ranks of commander, conqueror of the west, on Ma TʻEng, and commander, warden of the west, on Han Sui. With these powers, the 2 officials joined forces and began their march. The 4 leaders of the party in power held a consultation as to how to meet the attack. The advisor, Chia Su, said, "Since the attackers are coming from a distance, our plan is to fortify and wait till shortage of food shall work for us. In 100 days their supplies will be consumed and they must retire. We can pursue and we shall capture them." Lai Meng and Wang Fang rose and said, "This plan is bad. Give us a legion and we will put an end to both of them and offer their heads before your ensign." "To fight forthwith means defeat," said the advisor. The other 2 cried with one voice, "If we fail, we are willing to lose our heads, but if we win, then your head is forfeit." Chia Su then said, 200 lie west of the capital stand the Chaochi Hills. The passes are narrow and difficult. Send Generals Chang and Fan to occupy this point of vantage and fortify themselves so that they may support Lai and Wang. Lai Tsui and Quo Su accepted this advice. They told off a legion and a half of horse and foot, and Lai and Wang left. They made a camp 280 li from Changan. The force from the west arrived, and the two officers led out their men to the attack. They found their opponents in battle array. The two leaders, T'Eng and Han Sui, rode to the front side by side. Pointing to the rebel leaders, they abused them, calling them traitors and asking who would capture them. Hardly were the words spoken when there came out a youth with a clear, white complexion, eyes like shooting stars, lithe of body and strong of limb. He was armed with a long spear and bestrode an excellent steed. This young leader was TsʻAo, son of T'Eng, then 17 years of age. Though young, he was valiant and skillful. Wang Fang, despising him on account of his youth, galloped forth to fight him. Before they had exchanged many passes, Wang Fang was disabled and fell to a thrust of the young man's spear. The victor turned to retire into the formation, but Lai Meng rode after him to avenge his fallen colleague. TsʻAo did not see him, but his father called out, "You are followed." Hardly had he spoken when he saw that the pursuer was a prisoner seated on his son's steed. Now TsʻAo had known he was followed, but pretended not to see, waiting till his enemy should have come close and lifted his spear to strike. Then he suddenly wheeled about. The spear thrust met only empty air, and as the horses passed, TsʻAo's powerful arm shot out and pulled Wang Fang from the saddle. Thus the soldiers were left leaderless and fled in all directions. The army dashed in pursuit, and a complete victory was scored. They pressed into the pass and made a camp. They decapitated Lai Meng and exposed his head. When Lai Tsui and Qo heard that both the boastful captains had fallen under the hand of one young man, they knew that Chia Su had given good advice and was gifted with clear prescience. So they valued his plans the more highly and decided to act on the defensive. They refused all challenges to combat. Surely enough, after a couple of months, the supplies of the Hsiliang men were all exhausted, and the leaders began to consider retreat. Just at this juncture, a household servant of Ma Yu's family betrayed his master and told of the conspiracy of the three men to assist the attackers. The two chief rebels, in revenge, seized the three conspirators, with every member of their households, and beheaded them in the marketplace. The heads of the three were exposed at the gate. Being short of food and hearing of the destruction of their three adherents in the city, the only course for Ma and Han was to retreat. At once Chiang Kai went in pursuit of T'Eng, and Fan Chu followed Han Sui. The retreating army under Ma was beaten, and only by Ts'ao's desperate efforts were the pursuers driven off. Fan Chu pursued the other army, and when he had come close, Han Sui rode boldly up and addressed him, saying, "You and I, sir, are fellow villagers. Why then behave so unfriendly?" Chu replied, "I must obey the commands of my chief. I am here for the service of the state. Why do you press me so hard?" said Han. At this, Fan Chu turned his horse, called in his men, and left him in peace. Unwittingly, a nephew of Lai Tsui had been a witness of this scene, and when he saw the enemy allowed to go free, he returned and told his uncle. Angry that his enemy had escaped, Lai would have wreaked vengeance on his lieutenant, but his advisor again came in, saying it was dangerous to provoke another war. He proposed inviting the defaulting officer to a banquet, and while the feast was in progress, executing him for dereliction of duty. This seemed good to Lai, so the banquet was prepared. The two officers accepted their invitations and went cheerfully. Toward the latter part of the entertainment, a sudden change came over their host, and he suddenly asked Fan Chu, "Why have you been intriguing with Han Sui? You are turning traitor, eh?" The unhappy guest was taken aback, and before he could frame his words to reply, he saw the assassins rush out with swords and axes. In a moment all was over, and his head lay beneath the table. Scared beyond measure, his fellow guest groveled on the floor. "He was a traitor," said the host, raising him by the arm, and he has his deserts. You are my friend and need not fear." He gave Chiang Kai command of the murdered man's troop with which he returned to Hungnong. No one of the nobles among the Leaguers dared attempt an attack on the party. Newly risen from TʻEng chose disaffection, while on the other hand TsʻAo never ceased to urge his masters to exert themselves for the welfare of the people, and thus to tempt wise men to join them. And by these means the government began to prosper. However, a new trouble arose in the shape of a resurgence of yellow turbans. They came, without apparent head or leader, in large numbers and plundered any place they reached. Chu Qin said he knew of one who could destroy this sedition, and when asked who was the man he proposed, he said, "You want to destroy this horde of rebels. You will fail unless you get the services of TsʻAo Mernter." "And where is he?" asked Lai Tsui. "He is prefect of Tung Chun. He has a large army and you have only to order him to act. The rising will be broken." A messenger went post-haste with a command for TsʻAo and Pao Hsin to act together in quelling the rebellion. As soon as TsʻAo received the court command, he arranged with his colleague first to attack the rebels at Shaoyang. Pao Hsin made a dash right into their midst, inflicting damage wherever he could, and TsʻAo pursued them as they fled. So many surrendered. Then he put his quondam enemies in the van, and when his army reached any place many more surrendered and joined him. After 3 months of these tactics they had won over many thousands, both of soldiers and ordinary folk. Of these new adherents the strongest and boldest were made soldiers, and the others were sent home to their fields. In consequence of these successes, TsʻAo's prestige and fame became very great and increased daily. He reported his success to the capital and was rewarded with the title of Commander, Warden of the East. At his headquarters in Yanqiao, TsʻAo welcomed wise counselors and bold warriors, and many gathered around him. 2 clever men, uncle and nephew, came at the same time, both Yingqiao men, named Hsun Yu and Hsun Yu. The uncle had once been in the service of Yuan Shao. TsʻAo rejoiced when he had won the elder Hsun to his side, saying he was his teacher. The nephew was famed for his ability and had been in the court service, but had abandoned that career and retired to his village. The uncle said to TsʻAo, "There is a certain wise man of Yanqiao somewhere, but I do not know in whose service he is." "Who is he?" "Chiang Yu. He belongs to the Eastern District." "Yes, I have heard of him," said TsʻAo. So a messenger was sent to his native place to inquire. He was away in the hills engaged in study, but he came at TsʻAo's invitation. "I shall prove unworthy of your recommendation," said he to his friend Hsun, "for I am rough and ignorant. But have you forgotten a fellow villager of yours, Chia? He is really able. Why not spread the net to catch him?" "I had nearly forgotten," said Hsun Yu suddenly. So he told his master of this man, who was at once invited. Kuo, discussing the world at large with his master, spoke in high terms of one Liu Ye, and when he had arrived he was the means of inviting 2 more, Man Chiang and Lu Chin, who were already known to TsʻAo by reputation. These 2 brought to their new masters notice the name of Mao Qi, who also came and was given office. Then a famous leader, with his troop of some hundreds, arrived to offer service. This was Yu Qin of TsʻAo, an expert horseman and archer, and skilled beyond his fellows in every form of military exercise. He was made an army inspector. Then another day Hu Tun brought a really fine, handsome fellow to present to TsʻAo. "Who is he?" asked TsʻAo. "He is from Chiang Liu and is named Tyne Y. He is the boldest of the bold, the strongest of the strong. He was one of Chang Mo's men, but quarreled with his tent companions and killed a lot of them with his fists. Then he fled to the mountains where I found him. I was out shooting and saw him follow a tiger across a stream. I persuaded him to join my troop and I recommend him. I see he is no ordinary man, said TsʻAo. He is handsome and straight and looks very powerful and bold. He is. He killed a man once to avenge a friend and carried his head through the whole marketplace. Hundreds saw him but dared not come near. The weapon he uses now is a 2-branched spear over 100 pounds in weight, and he vaults into the saddle with this under his arm. TsʻAo bade the man give proof of his skill, so he galloped to and fro carrying the spear. Then he saw away among the tents a huge banner swaying dangerously with the force of the wind, and on the point of falling. A crowd of soldiers were vainly struggling to keep it steady. Down he leaped, shouted to the men to clear out, and held the staff quite steady with one hand, keeping it perfectly upright in spite of the strong wind. "This is old Wu Lai again," said TsʻAo. He gave the strong man a post in the army, and besides made him presents of an embroidered robe and a swift steed with a handsome saddle. Thus TsʻAo encouraged able men to assist him, and he had advisors on the civil side and valiant captains in the army. He became famous through all Shantung. TsʻAo's father, Sung, was living at Langya, whither he had gone as a place free from the turmoil of the partisan struggles, and as a dutiful son, TsʻAo sent the prefect of TsʻAo to escort his father to Yanqiao. The old man read the letter with joy, and the family prepared to move. They were some 40 in all, with a train of 100 servants and many carts. Their road led through Hsuchu, where the prefect, TsʻAo Ch'in, was a sincere and upright man who had long wished to get on good terms with TsʻAo, but hitherto had found no means of effecting a bond of union. Hearing that the family of the great man was passing through his district, he went to welcome them, treated them with great cordiality, feasting and entertaining them for 2 days, and when they left he escorted them to his boundary. Further he sent with them one Chang Ki with a special escort. The whole party reached Huafei. It was the end of summer, just turning into autumn, and at this place they were stopped by a tremendous storm of rain. The only shelter was an old temple, and thither they went. The family occupied the main rooms and the escort the 2 side wings. The men of the escort were drenched, angry and discontented. The leader called some of his petty officers to a secret spot and said, "We are old yellow turbans and only submitted to TsʻAo because there was no help for it. We have never got much out of it. Now here is the TsʻAo family with no end of gear, and we can be rich very easily. We will make a sudden onslaught tonight at the 3rd watch and slay the whole lot. Then we shall have plenty of treasure, and we will get away to the mountains." They all agreed. The storm continued into the night, and as TsʻAo Sung sat waiting anxiously for signs of clearing, he suddenly heard a hubbub at the west end of the temple. His brother TsʻAo Ter, drawing his sword, went out to see what it was about and was at once cut down. TsʻAo Sung seized one of the concubines by the hand, rushed with her through the passage toward the back of the temple so that they might escape. But the lady was stout and could not get through the narrow doors, so the 2 hid in one of the small outhouses at the side. However, they were seen and slain. The unhappy prefect fled for his life to Yuanshao. The murderers fled into Huainan with their plunder after having set fire to the old temple. TsʻAo, whom the ages praise, slew the loose in former days. Nemesis ne'er turns aside, murdered too his family died. Some of the escort escaped and took the evil tidings to TsʻAo. When he heard it, he fell to the earth with a great cry. They raised him. With set teeth he muttered, "His men have slain my father. No longer can the same sky cover us. I will sweep Hsuchu off the face of the earth. Only thus can I satisfy my vengeance." Leaving one small army to guard the east, he set forth with all the remainder to destroy TsʻAo and avenge his father. Now the prefect of TʻEng was a close friend of TsʻAo. Hearing TsʻAo was threatened, he set out with half a legion to his friend's aid. TsʻAo sent TsʻAo to cut him off while still on the march. At this time, TsʻAo was in office in the east, and he was also on friendly terms with TsʻAo. Hearing of TsʻAo's design to destroy the whole population, he came in haste to see his former companion. TsʻAo, knowing his errand, put him off at first and would not see him. But he could not forget the kindness he had formerly received, and presently the visitor was called to his tent. TsʻAo said, "They say you go to avenge your father's death on TsʻAo to destroy its people. I have come to say a word. The prefect is humane and a good man. He is not looking out for his own advantage, careless of the means and of others. Your worthy father met his unhappy death at the hands of Chiang Kai. TsʻAo is guiltless. Still more innocent are the people, and to slay them would be an evil. I pray you to think over it." TsʻAo retorted angrily, "You once abandoned me, and now you have the impudence to come to see me. TsʻAo slew my whole family, and I will tear his heart out in revenge. I swear it. You may speak for your friend and say what you will. I shall be as if I heard not." Intercession had failed. He sighed and took his leave. "Alas, I cannot go to TsʻAo and look upon his face." So he rode off to the Liu district. TsʻAo's army of revenge laid waste whatever place it passed through, slaying the people and desecrating their cemeteries. When TsʻAo heard the terrible tidings, he looked up to heaven, saying, "I must be guilty of some fault before heaven to have brought this evil upon my people." He called together his officials to consult. One of them, TsʻAo, said, "Now the enemy is upon us. We cannot sit and await death with folded hands. I, for one, will help you to make me a fight." The army went out. From a distance the enemy spread abroad like hoar frost and rushed far and wide like snow. In their midst was a large white flag, and on both sides was written, "Vengeance." When he had ranged his men, TsʻAo rode out dressed in mourning white and abused TsʻAo. But TsʻAo advanced, and from beneath his ensign bowed low and said, "I wish to make friends with you, illustrious sir, and so I sent Chiang Kai to escort your family. I knew not that his rebel heart was still unchanged. The fault does not lie at my door, as you must see. You old fool, you killed my father, and now you dare to mumble this nonsense," said TsʻAo, and he asked who would go out and seize him. TsʻAo undertook this service and rode out. The prefect fled to the inner portion of his array, and as TsʻAo came on, TsʻAo went to meet him. But just as the two horses met, a hurricane burst over the spot, and the flying dust and pebbles threw both sides into the utmost confusion. Both drew off. The prefect retired into the city and called his officers to council. "The force against us is too strong," said he. "I will give myself up as a prisoner and let him wreak his vengeance on me. I may save the people." But a voice was heard saying, "You have long ruled here, and the people love you. Strong as the enemy are, they are not necessarily able to break down our walls, especially when defended by you and your people. I have a scheme to suggest that I think will make TsʻAo die in a place where he will not find burial." These bold words startled the assembly, and they eagerly asked what the scheme was. Making overtures for friendship, he encountered deadly hate, but where danger seemed most threatening, he discovered safety's gate. The next chapter will disclose who the speaker was.